Welcome to Eerie Bites of History, your daily serving of strange bites of the past. A spy who walked into hell, a victory for women's voices, and a manifesto that shook a nation. All of which happened on September 19th. Let's begin. On September 19th, 1940, Polish army officer Witold Pilecki made a decision that would set him apart as one of the bravest men in the Second World War. On that day, during a German roundup in Warsaw, he deliberately allowed himself to be captured so that he could be sent to Auschwitz. At a time almost nobody knew the true horrors of the camp, his mission was unthinkable. He would infiltrate the very heart of the Nazi death march in order to gather intelligence and organize a resistance from within. Once inside, he witnessed starvation, disease, and brutal executions. Despite these conditions, he built a secret underground network where prisoners passed information, resisted their captors in small ways, and kept hope alive. At incredible personal risk, he smuggled reports out of the camp, making him one of the very first people to alert the Allies about what really happened at Auschwitz. After nearly 3 years, in April of 1943, he staged a daring escape, carrying with him evidence of the atrocities on a scale the world had never seen. Despite his achievements, after the war, instead of being celebrated, his story was buried by Poland's communist regime, who considered him to be an enemy because of his loyalty to democratic ideas. He was even executed in secret in 1948, and only decades later was his story finally told in full. I am in awe of his courage. He chose to face death every day not for himself, but to uncover the truth and protect others. It's heartbreaking that his story was silenced and his life taken before the world knew of the depth of his bravery. At the very least, he is able to be honored now. On September 19, 1893, New Zealand changed its country's electoral bill, making it the first nation in the world to grant women the right to vote in national elections. This was not an achievement that came overnight. For decades, women had marched, petitioned, and spoken out, demanding recognition of their votes in the political process. One of its most prominent leaders, Kate Shepherd, helped organize massive petitions that gathered tens of thousands of signatures. So many, in fact, that they stretched for hundreds of feet when rolled out in Parliament. Despite fierce resistance from many politicians and critics who claimed women were too emotional or unfit for politics, the bill pushed forward. Their persistence was finally rewarded when the electoral bill was signed into law, giving New Zealand's women the right to cast their vote and shape the future of the nation. The world took notice. Other countries, from Australia to the United States and beyond, would follow in the years and decades ahead. The first nation in the world to grant women's right to vote, this is a moment in history that started something we now take for granted. In my own country of Canada, it took another 25 years to follow. So thank you, New Zealand, for leading the way. On September 19, 1995, two of America's most prominent newspapers, the New York Times and the Washington Post, published a chilling 35,000-word document known as the Unabomber Manifesto. It had been sent by Ted Kaczynski, the elusive domestic terrorist who for nearly 2 decades had terrorized the country with mail bombs that killed 3 people and injured dozens more. Kaczynski demanded his essay be printed in full, promising that if it were, he would halt his deadly attacks. The manifesto was more than just rambling. It was part political philosophy, part extremist warning. Kaczynski railed against industrial society, technology, and modern progress, claiming they were destroying human freedom and the environment. By releasing it publicly, they hoped that someone might recognize the author's voice. The gamble paid off. After reading the published essay, Kaczynski's brother David noticed the uncanny resemblance to the letters Ted had written years before. With great reluctance and an emotional conflict, he brought his suspicion to the FBI. That tip led to his capture in 1996. He was found in a small, isolated cabin in Montana. For years, investigators had relied on traditional detective work, but in the end, it was the power of words that revealed his identity. What a gamble. Printing the terrorist's words? It saved lives and ended a reign of fear. To me, it's a reminder that sometimes what spreads terror can also end it. Like your history snack sized? Drop us a comment with your favorite bite and subscribe. Join us daily for your eerie dose of the past.